just one more on that topic. What is the challenge for you of sort of balancing those two things, right? Because on the one hand, you said you do want to always be looking to improve your team. On the other hand, you do want to give opportunities to these young guys, and those ideas can be conflicting. So how do you balance that?
Yeah, this is, I think, the needle that we're trying to thread, and we've talked about this all off season. You're right, at times there is tension between those two endeavors, and we're gonna do our best to balance it and ensure that we can put a competitive team, a good team on the field right now, and also build for that sustainable success long-term that we're seeking to do.
Do you expect, more directly, I mean, the options that you have now, do you expect those to be your primary options on opening day?
Yeah, I do.
Mike?
What's the best thing that's come out of this camp, the thing you feel the best about right now?
I think really just the atmosphere and culture among the group. I think more than anything, that's what you're looking to build during spring training, is an environment where players want to come to the field every day, an environment where coaches want to come to the field, where this is an enjoyable place for everyone to work productively and to get better. And I think Mendy's and our coaching staff has done a tremendous job of building that.
Based on who you have on the roster right now, how do you see the DH position shaking out right now?
I think that's one of the questions that we're going to continue to answer here over the next couple weeks. And it could be our rotation through some of our regulars. It could be more geared towards one or two of the bat first players who are here in camp that we're all talking about. But I don't think we have an answer to that right now.
Rich on the right.
You mentioned, I'm sorry.
Rich?
When you look at your bullpen, obviously getting Diaz back is a big cog in the machine. But your guys that link up, you guys that bridge to Diaz, some of them were here last year and some of them are players you brought in. How do you feel they've responded, and how do you feel that piece of your team is gonna kind of play out as we get to opening day?
I think Diaz is the biggest piece there, clearly, and he's in a great spot right now. We need to keep him in a great spot. And the rest of the bullpen, I feel good about where those guys are. And we also know that bullpens may take a little bit of time over the course of the year to figure out exactly what the right roles are for the right guys. But I feel like we have numbers. Those guys have gotten their work in, and they're in a good spot as we head into the last 2 weeks of camp.
Tim on the left.
What's the current plan with Kodai Senga?
So Senga is, the current plan is we'll have another probably week to 10 days of no throw. Assuming all goes well over the week to 10 days, we'll re-image to ensure that the proper healing and progression has taken place, that the inflammation has resolved, and then we'll commence the return to throw program.
Initially, it was a 3-week shutdown until this period. What has created this additional 7 to 10 days?
I think it's just our internal pacing of this and our internal testing. We've got a lot of objective information that we can use as we go through this process. You know, timeframes are our best understanding, our best suggestion, in many ways our best guess at the time of diagnosis. I'm always going to try to provide timeframes to you guys because I know you want them and it's helpful. But sometimes it's going to be shorter, sometimes it's going to be longer. In this case, it's probably about a week longer than we had anticipated at the front end.
Joel in the back.
David, you used the term threading the needle to the two-prong you're trying to accomplish here. That was a theory when you took over. Can you take us through the application, how difficult it's been to try to live in both worlds?
I think it's just sort of constant judgment calls, right? And I do think you can do both at the same time. We should be able to do both at the same time. And it's as we're looking at any particular decision point, does it tip the scale one way or the other? Do we think it tips the scale too far one way or the other? And those are the judgment calls that we're constantly talking about as an organization. But it is important to us that we're able to accomplish both at the same time.
Do you have, for want of a better term, weeks, number of games, months, where you turn stronger one way or the other during the season? And what would be the strongest indicators for what you would make you, say, take away at bats from a young player, or push to get a veteran guy, or trade a veteran guy, etc.?
I don't have firm cutoffs in my mind. I think every situation is unique. I think we have to look at every situation as it unfolds. And again, it comes back to a little bit of a judgment call and frankly, a little bit of feel as you're going through the course of the season. You got to feel for not only the individual player, but also where the team is at that moment in time. So these are going to be constant conversations, and there is not a firm number of plate appearances, number of games, firm moment in the season where I think we have to make these calls.
Tim again?
You mentioned the DH spot being something you guys are still working through. Are there other areas of competition, those last couple bullpen spots maybe, that you're still thinking about?
Yeah, I think that's right. I think it's DH and maybe those last couple of position player roster spots and how those decisions interplay with one another. And then yes, the last couple of bullpen spots, the last rotation spot, those are all decisions that we're continuing to evaluate and discuss.
How much are those swayed by how guys are performing in the here and now in spring?
This gets back to, we try not to look too much at the overarching performance maybe. We try not to look at the end result. We try our best to look at the process that's leading to that and how that process informs these decisions in the overall context of our roster. So who has options, who doesn't have options, who we think might be the right fit at the front end of the season in a particular role. So there are a lot of different factors. And in some of these, spring training performance plays a little bit of it, but certainly not the entirety.
All right.
Hi David, I'm Jose
Hello.
Jose from El Nuevo Día newspaper from Puerto Rico. So Edwin Diaz announced that he's going to be his father again for the third time. Do you have any news when he's coming back to the team again? And as an organization, what do you expect from him this season? Thanks.
He will be back here in the next couple of days. I don't know exactly when. We're very excited for him and his family. I know he's very excited. And what we saw the other night with his first appearance was one of the coolest spring training moments I've ever seen. For that level of intensity, what it felt like in a spring training ballpark was pretty cool. So I am excited to experience that for the first time on this side of these things with 40,000+ fans at Citi Field, and hopefully that happens on opening day.
Keith in the back.
What are some of the markers with Starling Marte this spring, results on the field being one thing that you maybe have confidence in going into this year?
I think with Starling, it's all about health. And we've seen him move really well, both on the base paths, running down the line, in right field. And so I have confidence that we're getting a healthy player, and that's the most important thing.
Joel in the back.
Two things if possible, David. If you're willing, what has not gone as you hoped this spring training?
Look, I would have preferred that Senga didn't have a shoulder soreness the first week of camp. So I'd like to take that one back if we could. Otherwise, I'm very pleased with how this camp has gone. I think our players showed up as a very motivated group, a group that feels it has something to prove. And we've been able to really assimilate a bunch of new people into the organization, me included, and that's been helpful for all of us.
The other one, Dave, is you entered camp believing you had a playoff team. I doubt you tell us you don't today. So why do you feel stronger about that? And if so, why? What has happened here in these 4 weeks?
I feel the same as I did when I spoke to you guys a month ago. I think we have a team that is going to be competitive, a good team. It's a team that likely did not perform up to its talent a year ago, and many of those core pieces are back this year, and I think are very motivated to have a good year.
Rich?
Obviously, when Senga comes back, he's on rotation, obviously, but when you look at the depth you might have in the starting rotation, would you envision at all going to a 6-man rotation to make him more comfortable in being what he did in Japan and also just guiding his shoulder through the rehab?
We'll evaluate that when Senga comes back, but I do think that there are going to be points of this season regardless of when Senga's in our rotation, that going to a 6-man makes sense. Generally, that extra day of rest is beneficial, not just for Senga, but for other pitchers as well. So we'll find the spots in our schedule where it makes sense to add an extra starter, and I think we do have the depth to be able to do that effectively.
Anything else? All right, thank you very much, David.
Thank you.